Hello. Let me tell you about the innovative discovery of DNA here. Next page. It was discovered in April of 1953.
Exploration of the DNA dates all the way back to 1868, but the double helix form was discovered in April 1953.
They discovered it by looking through X-rays. As you can see, the X-rays reflect off of the DNA, and that's how you can tell.
Some ways of knowing. First of all, language. James Watson and Francis Crick, they were the people who discovered the double helix formation of the DNA. And so we learn these knowledge claims from what they have written or have shared.
And for the sense perception, you can only see it. You can't feel it. You can't really taste it. You could try, but you wouldn't really do anything.
Taste DNA.
You can taste it.
For reason. For ways of knowing for reason, you have to ask yourself, does this make sense? Does it make sense that we have DNA? Well, yes, it does make sense. We must have a genetic code because we are the way we are because of some genetic mapping, and that makes us who we are and how we are made up.
Truth checks. And here's coherence. Coherence check, you would say, does DNA make sense? Well, through natural selection, mapping, and Punnett squares, it makes sense to yourself if you know those things.
Alright, correspondence check. Is it consistent with what we know? Does it correspond with other people's knowledge, and do they agree? Well, Alan and I both asked Miss
Eyre.
Yes, Miss Eyre, and the lady in the library.
Miss McCloskey.
Yes, and they both agreed that DNA does exist. Next.
And you can pragmatically check it, seen in our video that we created. This is a scrawny little boy. He's changing his white cells to make his immune system better. And this is pretty much genetic manipulation. And there you go. Super strong. Super strong. Which correlates with pragmatic check because you can actually do it and apply it to life and you can predict or check the DNA in others.
Some ways that your perspective would change on how you view the creation or the discovery of DNA. First of all, if you're really religious, it can change your views on such of these knowledge claims because you won't believe in DNA manipulation because you're playing God, or rather you would think that it's wrong. You don't have to think that it doesn't exist, but you could think that it's wrong.
And then for those people with the all-natural ideas, like Steve Jobs, he loves people that like the all-natural field. They don't like the GMO. They don't like to believe in it. They don't like anything to be manipulated. Yeah, next.
Ethnocentrism, that is judging another culture because of your own, which, for example, it's like white supremacist or racism. Now, this could affect your view because you may believe that your DNA is better than other people's DNA, but like I said before, that does not mean that you don't think that it's real, but that would affect your view on how you would see it or view this knowledge claim.
A knowledge question would be, how do we know that DNA exists? Well, this is a question with very little broadness, and lots of people have confirmed it. Either it's people in forensics or people that just study the DNA, and you can actually see it, which is pictures are 1,000 words.
All right. We can go a little broader than Alan's question by asking how much observation is needed to justify a claim of scientific discovery. This question is still a little narrow though because it focuses on this field of scientific discovery and you can't really like adjust that to other fields of knowledge. And you could also answer this question relativity to who you are and how you view this knowledge claim.
And then how do you justify how something exists? It's the broadest, which is not only in the scientific field, but it applies to everything else. And you can use the ways of knowing or the truth text. But for the most part, seeing is believing for the DNA.
Some ways that we connect with the discovery of DNA are, first of all, in our food. A lot of our food is genetically enhanced and we eat them every day. So we're eating like GMO food stuff that are, their DNA has been manipulated for our needs.
We can also use DNA to predict things that could happen, like offspring. Like you can predict what percentage of the eye color of the offspring would have, and examples of simple predictions would be the use of Punnett squares. And you can also predict whether or not someone could get a disease.
Our last personal connection is human identification. Because everyone has different DNA, that's how we tell each other apart. That's how I know Alan's Alan and Cameron's Cameron. Alright.
There's one more thing. Synthesis. What synthesis is, you could create things with DNA manipulations, which would eventually could lead to the master race.
Alright. Close it off, Alan. Well, that kind of ends our presentation of the discovery of the DNA. You have been TOK'd.
Wait, what is that?
History as a way of knowing, I feel, is very, you could be deceived by it a lot because when you're learning history, you're learning through somebody else's eyes and perspective, and it's really hard to find a lot of primary documents. But even though there are primary documents, you're still seeing it through the eyes of a person who perceived it, and everybody has a bias. So.
Because there's no absolute objectivity while writing either the history books or through the language, the ways of knowing of language. Because if you're not physically there when the history happened, then you're only getting it from another.
Yes, and we're only talking about like the history in the past because you're not there. Like if we're talking about like World War II or the discovery of the DNA, we weren't there at that time. But present day history, I feel like we have a better knowledge of that, or it's more reliable because we have experienced it firsthand.